Hello. Hello, everybody. This is day 2 of the Conqueror activation. And I have to say, I'm very gratified that I saw so many of you um, sending me your homework. That was really great. There were a couple of you who I had some exchanges with to really help you nail the tone of what we're going for, because I think you could see how easy it can be to downsell yourself, to backpedal on um, even saying for yourself or for me, like what you're really great at. Who are you? What do you feel is important in life? What builds you up, right? It's really hard to toot your own horn. Um, Again, I can see a couple of people are supposedly watching at least, so please go ahead and say hi, or whatever you'd like to do. Let me know that you can see me and hear me. I'm going to just assume that everything is okay. So I just had another little run-in with my own saboteur. I talked yesterday about the magician. I'm going to explain a little bit about those channels today. But the saboteur is the shadow version of the magician energy. Um, that it does what it sounds like. Hiya. It does what it sounds like it's going to do. It is a voice of sabotage, of self sabotage in your head, and the saboteur is concerned with things like time and evidence. And I found myself just now saying, I have so much material to get in this session today. There's no way I'm going to get this all in. There's not enough time. Aha! I caught myself doing it. So that's a lie. Of course, there's enough time, and I'm going to get absolutely everything in that I wanted to say. So, yesterday I talked a little bit about this book, the Art of War, the ancient Chinese classic, and in particular the quote that, for my purposes anyway, is really central to what I want to convey to you, which is, find the advantage, master opportunity. This is the dynamic. It's so important, the part about the dynamic, because dynamic means energy. Like, this is the tone, this is the frequency, this is the energy of being a conqueror. Okay? It is an inner energy. It's not just about like having more resources or more money or better lawyers or a louder voice or a sterner countenance, right? It's an inner it's an inner dynamic that creates this conqueror field for you to inhabit. So when the author talks about, we talked about this yesterday, about like the image of fighting an uphill battle. It's a real thing in warfare to position yourself in such a way that you are not fighting going uphill. Like, that's actual logistical thing. It's not just um, a metaphor. It's a real thing. um, but it is also a metaphor, and an energetic metaphor. So no downselling yourself, right? No positioning your own self halfway up the hill kind of on purpose. It's very important that you learn how to overcome that social conditioning that we've all been brought up with, that tells you how, it's not good to be arrogant. It's not good to think too much of yourself. It's not good to blow your own horn. And for the purposes of what we're doing here, of trying to win this battle on behalf of your children, okay? Like, let's not forget about that. Um, this battle is on behalf of your children, who need you, who need to have access to you, who need your codes. This is why you're involved in this war. If you didn't have kids, you would walk away from whatever whatever craziness is going on, right? So the first piece is, of standing on top of this hill that you must create for yourself, okay, of your own, um, let's say, self-worth, becoming conscious and becoming comfortable with owning who you are, without your kids, okay? So yesterday we talked about that, and many of you sent me your homework. That's really great. You can still do it if you haven't done it yet. I would love to correspond with you a little bit about, yeah, about where you're unconsciously still downselling yourself just a little bit. Um, Today, what we're going to work on is the second part of that building you into this hill that you can stand on so that you are never ever fighting uphill energetically, has to do with creating a parenting profile. This is something that I do for my private clients. I do it with a Google form, which is super easy to create and manipulate. Um, excuse me. Yeah, there's got to be probably 100 YouTube videos about how to do it if you've never worked with a Google form, but it's really easy to set this up for yourself with questions or prompts, at least, that you can go in then every week and just quickly see what the prompts that you made for yourself and answer yes, no, put a date in, put a name in, whatever. It will be really easy to upkeep once you have the form set up. So there are three parts to this parenting profile. One of them is things that you do on behalf of your children. The second one is things that you do with your children. And the third one is assessments that you make regarding your children, regarding their welfare, their development, their needs, whatever it might be. Okay. So in part one, things you do on behalf of your children, you are going to list absolutely everything that you do on an ongoing basis. And this parenting profile is going to be such an important piece of any possible legal action that you take. Like, this is the thing that your lawyer is going to say, thank goodness you have this, right? This is the piece of preparation that makes it possible for them to represent you as an outstanding parent. And you don't have to say anything about yourself. You don't have to like write letters and talk about what a great dad you are. You have this weekly ongoing testament to your involvement and engagement as a parent that is irrefutable if you follow these steps. Okay. So I'm going to say them to you here. If you want to get something to write down with now, you can do that. If you're watching on replay, you can hit pause, go get a notebook or whatever you like. Okay. You can make some notes about this. Oh, pardon me. I'm still dealing with stuff. Anyway, okay, so part one, things you do on behalf of your children. These would be anything financial, money that you're sending to your ex, money that you're paying for school, for money that you pay to keep your children on your insurance, just for example, anything that you have spent on family holidays, money that you spend when they come to see you, movies, restaurants, activities that you do. Okay. You can upload receipts or whatever, but you're keeping a track of all of those things. Things you do on behalf of the kids, you are in charge, not in charge, you're in touch with medical people. So the doctor, the dentist, a physiotherapist, an osteopath, whoever else, any kind of therapist, family counselor, you are putting a separate entry in your Google form for each one of those people where you can mention them by name and whether or not you have had to have any actual interaction with them. If you've paid a bill, if you've received a report from them, if you called their office to make an appointment, you make note of those things, okay? Anything to do with school teachers, with school administrators, um, the names of any teachers that you've been in touch with, or with the principal, or with the guidance counselor, whatever. Okay. If you're not already doing those things, this would be a good prompt for you to say, yeah, like, why don't I ever call the teacher? I get to do that. Of course you do, right? Be be involved, be in touch. Just to reach out and say, here's my email. I would love to hear how my child is doing, or if there are any issues, if there's anything that I should be doing to help them hit their goals. Okay. Anything to do with extracurriculars, that would be sports, music, clubs, teams, anything, art class, dancing, whatever they happen to be doing, whether you are taking them to those things, whether you're paying for those things, whether you're in communication with those coaches or teachers, tutors, after school tutors, or anything like that, right? Their friends. Who are their friends? Who are the parents of their friends? Do you organize play dates? Do you organize birthday parties, sleepovers? Are you in touch with the parents of your child's friends? Are you engaged socially in some way with who your child sees? Extended family, your extended family, visits that you're making to grandparents, to aunts and uncles, to cousins. Okay. Neighbors in your neighborhood, people that your kids play with. That's the idea. There's probably some things that I'm leaving out. Go ahead and put them in. But if you write all of these um, like topics as a heading, doctor, dentist, school teacher, administrator, blah, 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 then it's a prompt for you every week so that you don't have to think about it. You go, oh yeah, I called the teacher, or I spoke to the teacher after school, or whatever it might be. Okay, we work together on a project. Then section number 2 is things that you do with your kids. So that would be where you have a section for routines, let's say, and that would be um, for some of you, you only have your kids on the weekend. So a routine could be like, what happens on Saturday morning? Do you have a special breakfast that you tend to make? Or do you have set aside some time where you watch cartoons together? I don't know, I'm making it up, but you get the idea. Okay. Any kind of routines, especially like bedtime routines, marking what time do you go to bed? What do you do at bedtime? Like bath, brush teeth, read stories. Everything goes in here, okay? This is what I'm talking about. You have this compiled, and Google Docs will, like, it's very easy to send all of this information then to a spreadsheet, or to print out this information that the weekly printout gets collated and sent to you. So this is extremely powerful when you can show all of the myriad ways that you are involved as a parent. Okay, it's super important to have this kind of document, not just for your lawyer, but for yourself, that you know on an ongoing basis exactly what you're doing as a parent, and the impact that's having. Okay, the things that seem just normal and obvious to you are important to enumerate for someone from the outside, especially a guardian ad litem or something. Like, they'll just fall over dead if you have this. It's exactly what they're looking for. It's exactly what they want. And it's all there ready for them in one place. And it would take 10 minutes a week to make this happen. Okay. What else goes in the category of things you do with your kids? It would be, what do you do to play with them? What do you do to have fun? What are the activities that you do? What kind of schoolwork do you do together with your kids? Do you read with them? Do you do math problems or science projects or whatever? How about food? What are you giving them to eat? Are you aware of any preferences, their food preferences, or for sure any allergies or sensitivities? You mark those things down. It shows that you know, that you're aware, that you are immune to your ex saying that you're not a considerate parent, or that you're not involved, or that you don't know your child very well, or whatever. it will just be there that is an untrue thing because you happen to know that they like the crusts cut off their sandwiches or whatever it is, right? You just, from time to time, you write those things in. And you also write something to do with your rules and boundaries and where that's come up this week. What new rules you've instituted or where you've bumped up against a rule or a boundary and how you handled that, right? That's relevant. So you don't have to write paragraphs about it. You can say something like, you know, uh, once again, the kids didn't want to go to bed at bedtime. And so they got to have 15 minutes extra staying up if they would brush their teeth and go right to bed. Something quick, that just shows how you deal with these little issues when they come up. Okay. And section 3 about assessing the kids. This is where you take a step back. And now, as a parent, you make some comments uh, about how you see them developing, growing, progressing, new things that new milestones that they've hit, learned to ride a two-wheeler, did a double flip on the trampoline, something like that. Again, this is a really good place to include things about conflict or behavior or things that they're um, complaining about or pushing back about and how you've responded to that. How are they doing socially? What do you observe about them um, in terms of getting along with their friends or having difficulties at school that you're just aware of, like, lots of problems with the other girls at school in middle school, or, lots of stories about, you know, having a problematic teacher that they don't get along with, that type of thing. Okay. Where are they struggling? What are they good at? What are they getting good at? What do you observe about them? Okay. So I think you can see the value in preparing this kind of document and staying on top of it. It doesn't take a long time, honestly, like 10 or 15 minutes once a week should be plenty if you put in the initial, maybe an hour to set up this kind of Google form survey where you're answering your own prompts. And once they're there, you don't have to think about them again and again every week, but you will have this body of very rich evidence speaking to your um, um, I want to say your value, but to your excellence as a parent, right? You have to ask. This is the same. It is very similar to the exercise that you did yesterday about, like, who are you? What are you good at? Um, you have to give it some thought. It's not that it just comes naturally. Okay. That's why I'm giving you all of these prompts. But I'm sure that many, many of you are very involved in all of these things for your kids. And it wouldn't occur to you to say all of them, or it would take a lot of labor to think back over the last 6 months or a year. What were all the interactions that you had? Okay. So it's important to just list out all the possible options. And then on a weekly basis, you just kind of tick them off. Okay. So let me just go a little bit now into these 4 channels of consciousness that I've been talking about, because I want to talk in particular about the magician and its relevance to the conqueror energy. So again, if you happen to have a piece of paper in front of you, I often prompt my clients to just kind of draw it out in columns. You need 4 columns on a piece of paper. I know I'm going backwards here, so maybe it's this way from left to right. Column 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. The first column is the soul channel of consciousness. The next one is the spirit channel. Then comes the body channel, and then the mind. And when I say then and then, it's not necessarily a progression. kind of situation. Although there is some progression there, but really they are all involved all the time. Okay. So we're never operating only from one channel of consciousness. But the idea is that every thought that you ever have can be assigned to one of these channels. So because we're thinking all the time, like they're all firing all the time. When it becomes not problematic, but the dynamic of our consciousness is that we spend most of our time in the lower frequencies, in the more dense survival type of energy of consciousness. And that is just a function of how we've evolved. That since time immemorial, survival has been our primary motivator for everything that we do. That's why we have reflexes, right? That as living beings, our first imperative is just to survive. And as we are evolving now, and as we've come to this moment in history, human evolution has now become available on an individual basis. We don't have to wait for the whole human race to evolve together, like from Neanderthal to Homo sapiens over hundreds of thousands of years. We now have the option to evolve as individuals. And what you can see happening around you without looking very far is that all of the structures around us are falling apart. Everything from the weather of the planet to the political structures and boundaries and families breaking apart, not just from divorce, right? But from, um, ideological issues have become so present now that they're really, breaking apart families and friendships, and really stuff is falling apart around us. And it's part of the process of change that we're going through here. And the chaos that we're in right now, in a way, is an opportunity, because in a moment of chaos, all of the codes become liberated from the grid where they were stuck. And we can reach out now and manipulate them for ourselves in a different way than we've been ever been able to do before. So instead of survival being our primary motivator, we can understand the truth of the idea that many things feel like survival issues, which are not. It used to be a true thing that if you got rejected by your tribe and like thrown out of the cave, that you wouldn't last a couple of days, like some wild animal would come and get you. If you didn't have the fire that belonged to the collective, you could freeze to death or not be able to cook your food or whatever. And we still interpret rejection as a survival threat, which it really isn't. It would generate an unpleasant feeling, but a feeling turns out to be just a feeling. And our feelings activate in us these very strong, well, the feelings are emotions, but we generate thoughts about our emotions in this kind of loop. Like thoughts create our feelings, and then feelings make us, want to justify those feelings with thoughts about them. And feelings cannot actually hurt you. And that is the truth. We're not used to thinking that way because society has taught us how to, or the importance of validating our feelings and other people's feelings. feelings can be true and valid, but um, but they're not what you think. They cannot actually hurt us in the way that we think. So, getting back to the channels of consciousness, um, each of these channels is responsible for different concepts in our thought processes. Okay, so the soul channel has, you know, a power version and a shadow version, which is the depowered version, the depotentized version. Okay, so the soul channel, the powerful version is called the lover archetype, and the illusion, powerless version, survival version is called the prostitute. The prostitute being someone who sells themselves out for a low price, for someone who doesn't know what they're worth, someone who exchanges their self-expression for something that they think they need, which in case of the prostitute lover is belonging. Okay, so the prostitute lover channel, the soul channel, is about things like worth, self-worth, value, your own values, the value that you put on other things, um, things like purpose and belonging to the tribe, to the community, to the family, whatever it might be for you. Okay, the spirit channel is more moving in the direction of personal identity. So where the prostitute lover is about your your value in terms of like your right to be alive, to take up space on the planet, the spirit channel is about individuation and identity. It's issues about responsibility, about permission. So we're talking about the child and the sovereign here. This is the spirit channel. Okay, so the shadow piece is the child, and the power version, or the light version, if we're talking about the opposite of shadow being light, or um, you know, illusion and truth, is another way of looking at them. This is the child sovereign channel. Okay, so things like dreams, dreams and goals, visions. Okay, punishment, fairness. Um, those are the issues that belong in this spirit child sovereign channel. Then we have the body channel, which is the victim and the warrior, and that is super easy for the dads to identify with, right? Because it is so easy to get thrown into your victim consciousness, where things are being done to you, where you have not enough resources. And this is a channel about crisis and overwhelm and what if and what could happen, and really deeply about survival in the victim energy. The warrior is about um, creating a framework and boundaries in order to stream your power into the real world. And the mind channel is the magician at the top, and the saboteur underneath, the one who is messing with your mind. That's what the saboteur does. It's overthinking things, being too much in your head, having no access to your intuition. And the mind channel, the saboteur magician channel, is about things like logic and judgment and proof and evidence and credibility, right? All of those things that we chew on, as well as time. Like I said at the beginning, I had a little run-in with my own saboteur like 3 minutes before signing on here. Like, I don't have time. I'm never going to get it all done. Yes, I will. And the magician is the one that I really feel that I got disconnected from when I was sick, that with COVID in the last few weeks. And whereas I said, I really felt overwhelmed, victim story. with some mental symptoms that were really knocking me off my game and that aren't who I really am. And I think that this whole divorce and alienation terrain is something that knocks a lot of you off your game. And I just this week I had a client who had a nice experience of getting back into himself as a parent and saying, like, I recognized that guy. Like, I used to be him. Where did he go? Like, why was that so hard for me for all these years? Right? It's often a question of getting back into a feeling that you recognize from before and couldn't really put your finger on why it's not there anymore, except that it's so easy to point your finger outside of yourself and say, it's because of this court case. It's because of my terrible custody situation. It's because my ex is, saying such untrue things about me to my kids. It's because when they come here, I can't get them to do anything. So, what we're doing here is getting you out of shadow and into your true, clear consciousness, your true awareness of the present moment, of the truth of the present moment, right? That we're letting go of illusions. We're seeing anything that is not the truth as an illusion, as a story that you're telling yourself. And that's where the fear piece comes in. The fear of losing your kids feels so real. It feels like such a real thing that you allow it to direct your actions in the real world. And that will get you nowhere. So this is why it's so important to use some of these energetic tools. Some of them are just intellectual tools, like understanding the archetypes of consciousness. And we're going to work a little bit with energetic tools to shift your energy out of that fear place and into your true power, not only so that you can make your actual decisions from there. And in the case of the magician archetype, which is like this final piece of all the other things being in place, right? Like your self-worth and your vision and your sovereignty and having the resources that you need and creating a structure for yourself and sticking to your boundaries, like all of those things have to be in place, of course. But the final piece is accessing your intuition, because that's where you get to collapse time and make things happen much faster. And taking action to solidify that powerful energy is the thing that really that locks in the energy so that you really have it solidly. And it seems ridiculous to say that taking action collapses time, but of course it does, because the more you procrastinate doing things because you're afraid, which is the saboteur acting, the saboteur being in charge of your activities, you delay bringing your kids back towards you with things that will really, really move the needle on making that happen. And we delay because we're afraid. So this is what we're doing here, okay? We're getting away from the fear. One of the things that I did for myself this week when I had to like slap my own self upside the head and say, like, this is happening to me for a reason. This weird situation of feeling so emotionally overwhelmed, so incapable of making a move, so helpless, and feeling really so like hopeless about the future. It was really extremely heavy what I was experiencing. One of the tools that I used was something called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It's also known as tapping. It's going to feel really weird if you've never done something like this before, but I will humor you by telling you that there is a simple scientific basis for why this works. In general, our conscious mind has no direct connection to our unconscious. This is the similar way of talking about light archetypes and shadow archetypes, that we need to use a little bit of a trick, because when you're in your shadow archetypes, it feels like reality to you. The idea of being, overwhelmed with unfairness, it feels real. You can't consciously see it as an illusion unless you enter into a certain process, which we'll talk about more. But EFT, emotional freedom technique, is a way of using acupressure points. I'm sure you know about acupuncture as a Chinese medicine thing. So then we're back in the world of the art of war, and what those people knew even 2,500 years ago about energy, right? This is the dynamic, as he says. We're working on the dynamics here. So we are going to connect your conscious thoughts with your unconscious body, which is represented by your nervous system. We're going to connect those two things together in this way. We're going to tap with your fingers on certain parts of your body where there are certain nerve endings that are associated with these Chinese meridians or energy pathways. So we're going to tap on certain areas on your face and your body, excuse me, that are going to fire up these nervous pathways and give you some access to your unconscious through your nervous system. And at the same time, we're going to say things consciously. You're going to bring some feelings into your conscious awareness while we're doing this tapping, and that is going to allow your conscious to communicate with your unconscious and unwind some of these knots that are in there. Okay, so this is something pretty close to what I did, and I'm going to invite you to do it along with me, and I'm going to leave space for you to repeat either out loud or loudly in your mind what I say. Okay. Excuse me. So the areas to tap are the top of your head, the inside of your eyebrow, where the inside bone of your eyebrow, I guess, the outside of your eye on this outer part of the bone, underneath your eye on the top of your cheekbone, the area between your nose and the top of your lip is a tapping place, the area under your lip above your chin, between your lower lip and your chin, and your collarbone. You can do both sides if you like to do that. It doesn't really matter, one side or both sides, but this collarbone area. And the final spot is on your chest, directly below your armpit. Okay? So before we begin, there's just a little exercise where you tap on the karate chop part of your hand. This is called the setup part. And you say, no matter how I feel right now, you can repeat that. No matter how I feel right now, I deeply and completely respect and honor myself. I deeply and completely respect and honor myself. No matter what feelings I'm having right now or how embarrassing they are, no matter what feelings I'm having right now or how embarrassing they are, I deeply and completely respect and honor myself. No matter what feelings come into my body, no matter what feelings come into my body, I deeply and completely respect myself and everything about how I feel. Okay, now we'll start at the top of the head, tapping, and you can repeat after me. These are statements of the saboteur. Okay, so we're going to do one whole round doing these kind of negative saboteur statements, and then we will replace them and install the magician statements. I am procrastinating right now. Inside of the eye. I'm imagining a negative outcome. I'm projecting my feeling onto a screen and playing a made-up movie for myself. On the outside of the eye, I'm worried about what somebody else thinks about me. I'm worrying about what someone thinks about me. Under the eye, I can't even control what I think about myself. How could I control what someone else thinks about me? Under your nose, I'm judging myself for not being perfect. I think I need to be better than I am right now. At the chin, I don't know what else I can do right now. I feel like I've done everything. I don't know what else I can do. Collarbone, I can't see what comes next. I can't see what to do next. Under the arm, this is so stupid. This is never going to work. This is totally stupid. And top of the head one more time. This is ridiculous. This will never work. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing with some magician statements. Okay? Inside the eyebrow, I don't fall for illusions. I am the master of truth. Outside of the eye, I only care about what's true. Under the eye, I can see the light codes hidden in reality. Under your nose, I know how to collapse shadow and to collapse time. Chin, I'm not afraid to look foolish. It's the fastest path to my goal. Looking foolish is the fastest path to my goal. Collarbone, I don't need evidence. Under the arm, I don't need to see how it will happen. I don't need to see it now. Top of the head, I choose what to believe. Oh my gosh, this was a big one for me. I choose what to believe. Eyebrow, I decide what happens. I decide. Outside the eye, I am writing this story. I'm writing this story. Under the eye, I choose magic over logic. I choose to believe in magic over being stuck in logic. Chin, I release my attachment to logic as of this moment. Collarbone, I choose what to believe. Under the arm, I am choosing my own beliefs right now. Top of the head, I choose to believe what serves my goal. Take a deep breath. That was an example of using EFT to get out of your negative energetic state and into a more powerful one. You can do that anytime, okay? It's a very simple of just tapping a few seconds on each of these spots, and the general flow of it is just to first say out loud, or at least loudly inside your head, all of the things that are dragging you down, the things that you believe, okay? My kids don't love me anymore. My kids don't want to come and see me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't get them to answer my messages. I feel so useless because I can't figure my way out of this. Okay. You just say out loud all of those things. And then you go through and say, the truth is my children love me, even if they don't know how to show it. The truth is that my children are hostages right now. They have to say these things. They don't understand that it's hurtful to me. And anyway, it's not their job to manage my feelings. It's my job to manage my feelings. My children are not in charge of my feelings, and I don't wait for permission to parent them. I do not need permission from my children to parent them. It's my job to parent them. Okay? That's another quick version of how you can, in 30 seconds, really shift your energy. And probably you can feel already that did something for you. It certainly will do something for you if you use your own words and your most current and present feelings, and then force yourself to say the truth afterwards. Force yourself to say what you know is true, even if you can't really believe it. And it will just give you that little energetic push to the top of the hill, right where you want to be. All right, one more thing I'm going to share with you today before we move on. And by the way, the word of the day to put into the comments to be entered for the draw is magician. That's today's word. Okay. And as I say the word draw, I know that I mentioned yesterday, and I've been mentioning in my posts, that one of the things I was going to give away was a scholarship for Petronas College. And getting back into my magician made me see very clearly that it is not the time to run it again right now. It just isn't the right time. I don't need a reason. I'm listening to my magician, and I will understand later why it needs to be postponed a month or 2 months or 6 months. I don't know when I'm going to run it again, but it's not the time right now. So I will absolutely be giving away my other existing programs. And I do encourage you to, where's my little banner? Go to bit.ly/dad2023. It's an easy one to remember. Jot it down, or go there right now in your search bar and fill out the form later. But that's an assessment form for me to get a sense of which of my programs would best serve you where you are right now. Okay. I thought I was getting rid of that. Okay. Anyway, one more thing to share with you. This is another energetic technique. It is called emotional stress release. And this is how we're going to work on your worst case scenario, blasting through your worst case scenario. Okay. So whatever your worst case is, whether that has to do with losing all custody of your children, or hearing your children say they don't want to come over anymore, or I don't know, finding out that your ex is moving 3 states away and it's creating a drama, whatever's present for you. Okay. Your big thing, whatever your big worst case scenario is, I want you to think about it now a little bit. And you're going to, you can lean, if you're sitting at a desk or something, you can lean your elbows on your desk and put your hands on your fingertips on the bony part of your forehead that's kind of in between your eyebrows and your hairline. Okay. You can also do it this way with your hand across your forehead if that kind of feels better for you. Either way is fine. But you want to use very, very light pressure, the kind of pressure that you might put on your eyelids if you're pressing on your eyeball. Okay. Very gentle pressure. It's not hard. We're looking to, again, energetically bring some blood flow to this area of your head. Okay. So breathing deeply, close your eyes and play a little slip of a movie, a few 10 or 20 seconds of a scene of your worst case scenario. This is you receiving some bad news. This is you being confronted with your kids, being angry at you or saying something unkind. Maybe this is an interaction with your ex that feels like the worst thing that could happen. Just watch it play out for a few seconds. Run it again. Run that little movie clip again. See that terrible thing happening. And excuse me, breathing deeply. I want you to now add on an alternate ending. I want you to add on your ideal ending. I want you to see this situation turn around. I want you to see yourself saying the exact thing that makes everything go the way you want it to go. I want you to see yourself receiving a piece of mail with the good news. I want you to imagine your kids jumping into your arms, whatever it might be. Play that happy ending for yourself. Now take a deep breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and take your hands away. That is a very, very powerful technique. And I will encourage you to use it as an SOS. Well, you can use it anytime, really. But if you really do get some, heavy, unwanted news, you can step into the bathroom anytime and take a couple of seconds and do this technique to really just bring yourself back into reality, to reconnect with your magician. Okay, that you can't see the possibility right now, but it is there. And if you just imagine it clearly and allow this flow of energy, this cycle of energy to pass through you, you will bring yourself back into a grounded state, okay, of not allowing the deer in the headlights to run your show. Okay, good. I got it in less than an hour. I did. I got in everything that I wanted to do. The word of the day is magician. I would love to see that in the comments, even if you're watching on replay. And the homework for today, I didn't give you any homework. I would love to see 3 things from each of these lists, okay? The things that you do on behalf of your kids, the things that you do with your kids, and things that you do in terms of assessing your kids, how they're doing, where they're struggling, whatever, okay? If you want to actually set up the Google form for yourself, you're welcome to send me the link and I'd be happy to check it out for you, or just send me, put it in the comments, or send me emails or personal messages as you've been doing. And okay, that's the homework. All right, I'm going to see you tomorrow for day 3. And tomorrow we're going to do a very cool exercise together. A couple of things, actually. We're going to be creating the archive of Dad, and we're going to do some flow writing together. So that's going to be some fun. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.